The wait is over and the questions have started hitting. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, is following in the footsteps of its predecessor by assembling an all-star cast to give a murder mystery story. In today's video, we'll be talking about all the biggest flaws Glass Onion has compared to Knives Out, and not only that, but we'll also address the biggest unanswered questions and head-scratchers. So let's get into it. First up, what was the one big flaw? Glass Onion has received amazing reviews for sure, just like its predecessor, and since the movie is a sequel, the audience can't help but compare the two, and with that, there's one notable flaw in the film. For those who haven't seen the first film, this movie is centered around Benoit Blanc, played by Daniel Craig. He's investigating a murder and all the chaos that comes with it on a private island owned by Edward Norton's tech billionaire character Miles Braun. The movie has a star-studded cast that includes Janelle Monáe, Dave Bautista, Kate Hudson, Leslie Odom Jr., and more names that include your personal favorite. Now, the first movie, Knives Out, had a much larger variety in their cast, with Christopher Plummer, Chris Evans, Jamie Lee Curtis, Katherine Langford, Michael Shannon, and more. So in comparison, the first movie contained some of the biggest names in Hollywood and very familiar faces. Although the cast of Glass Onion is extremely talented, the first movie is somewhat disjointed due to its focus on giving each cast member a chance to shine. And while this results in some standout performances, it also leads to a lack of cohesiveness in the sequel. Please don't interpret this as criticism of the cast, they're all brilliant. Next up, why can't the cast of Glass Onion beat Knives Out? To put it simply, Glass Onion's cast can't beat the first movie because of the way the sequel's written. In the first installment of the series, director Rian Johnson skillfully sticks to the classic murder mystery formula while simultaneously subverting the genre and allowing a diverse cast of characters to shine. The film features well-written and edited interviews at the beginning and dynamic group scenes that allow each cast member to have their own standout moments and still contribute to the overall plot. This balance allows for a fair representation and appreciation of every member of the cast, and this was all written to be so by Johnson. He wrote of the Knives Out characters as one big family. The death of the patriarch causes them to come together in a way that highlights all of their talents, and with Glass Onion, it still climbs high enough to be a murder mystery, but with enough chances to be different from its predecessor. It keeps the spark alive, and the differences keep it fresh. Coming up, despite a few changes, Glass Onion is still great. One of the sequel's changes from the original is how it focuses more on specific characters compared to having the time equally divided between all of them. Janelle Monáe stood out the most in the sequel, becoming a prominent character, so Craig and Monáe appear most frequently, which is how the sequel diverges from the original. While this does become a flaw, the main cast for the cameo-filled Glass Onion is nothing short of brilliant, and even though Monáe and Craig take the stage, the other actors don't shy away from delivering a brilliant performance as well, even if they don't have the same focus as the individuals in Knives Out. The sequel is brilliant, even if it can't match the standard set by its predecessor. Not to mention the biggest unanswered questions and head-scratchers. With this sort of genre, the plot becomes clear with time only, but sometimes not everything is explained even in the end. Glass Onion is no different, some questions remain unanswered. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, has its share of plot twists and flashback scenes. It wraps up its plot well when the story is revealed and the audience gets to connect the dots. We get an insight into the life of Miles Braun and his friends at his party in Greece on his private island, but it leaves some questions for the imagination to answer. To be fair, some of them might only be details that add to the movie's plot and characters, but that doesn't stop the fans from searching for the answers after watching the movie. Now, to get to the questions, we have to give you context. Glass Onion did a brilliant job of shocking its audience and even the characters halfway through the film. The revelation was that Andy is her twin sister, Helen Brandt, who's hired Blanc as the detective to investigate her sister's murder, and all the while posing as Andy to uncover the killer's identity. This was a successful and brilliant plot in the sequel. It may have been cleverly executed, but the events that came before it, leading to Miles as the murderer, bring up some questions to which we don't have a response. Let's look at Miles and Andy. The fans learn about the disruptors and their relationship with Andy throughout the movie. She had a good relationship with them, and with Miles in particular since they were dating, so her having a twin shouldn't come off as a surprise to them, even if it did to us. This is confirmed later in the movie. After learning the truth about Helen towards the end of the movie, Birdie does say that Andy talked about having a sister. Now, we're not saying that Miles is the brightest from the crop. Considering he must have known about his girlfriend's sister, it's surprising that he didn't put two and two together when the woman he killed showed up at his party. Another question is that Miles being the murderer shocked the viewers in general and us. One might wonder why Miles would invite Andy to his party given that he supposedly killed her, and the invitation process for the party was apparently quite selective. This raises several questions and seems somewhat incongruous. Some may say that maybe he sent the boxes before killing her, but then why invite Andy to his private island at all? Especially when considering how both of them had lost contact and she wasn't on good terms with any of the disruptors. What's more, the gun and the knife disappeared. The gun played a significant significant role in the film and could almost be considered its own character. Initially, it was used as a source of comedic relief belonging to Duke and featured in the first half of the movie. However, the gun's importance increases when it goes missing from Duke's belt. As the story progresses, we learn that Miles took the gun and was responsible for Duke's death. In the climactic finale, the other characters come to the shocking realization that Miles was also responsible for Andy's death. Miles fires the gun at Helen, believing that it's Andy coming back to life. However, the gun then disappears and is never mentioned again for the rest of the movie. It remains unaccounted for. In a murder case, the weapon used is a crucial piece of evidence, therefore the gun's disappearance raises questions. And this seems to be a pattern in Glass Onion, as Duke's gun isn't the only weapon that's unspoken for. As all of the lights are turned off, the detective notices the biggest kitchen knife missing, which implies it's been taken by somebody. When the night is replayed for the audience with the plot twists being answered, we can see that it's Birdie who's holding the knife in one of the shots, but apparently she gets rid of the knife soon after. What's weird is that we don't know why she had the knife in the first place. Naturally, you'd think it's for protection, but there's no explanation for why it disappeared after and if she was the one who disposed of it. Moving on, who's Daryl and how much does Claire's husband know? The movie Glass Onion is filled with celebrity jokes and references, as is common in films with large all-star casts. However, there is one character that seems out of place and doesn't fit in with the rest, Daryl. Unlike the other characters who are immersed in the world of fame and wealth, Daryl seems disconnected and doesn't seem to belong. He's a stoner who becomes a running joke in the film and pops up randomly in the movie. He apparently lives on the island in Miles' mansion, which is odd, and we have absolutely no idea as to why that is. It's not clear how he ended up on the island, why Miles let him live there, and how they both know each other. You might wonder why all of that is so important. Well, when a murderer lets you live in their house, there has to be a reason for it. It's not every day a killer invites you to their mansion on their private island while they kill women. Another character who appears less but doesn't make much sense is Claire's husband, Devin DeBella. He only appears in the opening scenes of Glass Onion. Here's what's questionable about him. Claire basically owes her entire political career to him, right? So how much does Devin know about Miles and their project with Claire? The movie doesn't explain his involvement with either, so we can only assume that he was kept in the dark by Claire throughout. This can explain why he didn't go with Claire to the island when other characters brought people along with him. Finally, some other final questions. The guests are greeted by Miles' supposed butler, who never shows up again after taking them to the island. Then another is that Miles' blackout strategy isn't clear since he got the idea from Blanc and wouldn't have enough time to set everything up. Another question involves the weird shots given to the guests before they get on board, which protects them from COVID. And lastly, when Blanc and Helen are discussing the murder in the gym, we see that a picture of Serena Williams comes to life since she was on a video call, making it a cameo. So how much did she hear about the murder, and did she do anything about it? That is a wrap for this video. What do you think of the biggest flaw in Glass Onion? Tell us, what's the biggest unanswered question for you? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one.